Welcome, Nate, to Metallarium Pages. It's a great pleasure to talk with you. Again, we spoke 2 years ago about for the last album, Enlightening in Eternity, and now we return to talk for this last album, goes at the Wallows. So,
Yeah, man.
for that, how are you during the last 3 years? How has the band been during these three years, etc.?
Been good, man. It's been ups and downs. Tried to stay busy during the lockdown. Released an EP, released some cover songs. Released a full fucking album in the middle of the pandemic. Which wasn't great. We couldn't tour on it, so that sucked. But I know everyone else was in the same boat. And then we've been hitting it. When things opened back up, we toured with Crowbar, which is one of my favorite bands of all time. We toured Europe and the UK with Yob, which is another one of my favorite bands. Toured the States with Corrosion of Conformity. We toured with Midnight, wearing their shirt right now. Great guys. And then we just did a few festivals in the UK and Europe, and now we're just waiting for the record to come out, man.
Okay. So talking about the live presentation, well, you told me a few seconds ago that Enlightening in Eternity didn't have a good promotion for live presentations, this kind of stuff. But now you have two albums in a row. If we relate this aspect row, so how will you focus to the promote? You will just promote the last album, Ghost of the Gallows, or perhaps you will promote Enlightening in Eternity more, both albums, because the first one didn't have one.
Yeah, well, we've toured quite a bit since Enlightened came out. So we've been playing a lot of those songs. Our set list at this point, we've been doing a lot of direct support, which would be about 45 minutes. Some of these festivals, we only had half an hour. So we just try to represent as much of our catalog as we can. We over the past couple of years, we've been playing songs from Curse of Conception, Divided by Darkness. The set list is primarily Enlightened in Eternity, but now we've started adding a couple of songs from the new album as well. We've been playing Barn Burner and another song called Hanged Man's Revenge, which there will be a music video for that song coming out around the same time the album comes out. So yeah, we just try.
So continue with the interview. I remember that when we spoke in 2020, that you did a lot of work with Eric Wagner at that time, but now you completely changed the lineup because Sonny, Mike, and Tom are entered in 2022 as the new members of the band. So why Eric decided to leave the band at that time in 2020, and then you do everything by yourself since the beginning, but now you are four members in the band now.
Yeah, well, the recordings have all kind of been the same from the beginning. I mean, I used to play everything, just me, as a solo project, and then eventually started working with drummers in the studio. Marcus Bryant played drums on a couple of things. In 2019, Gatecreeper and Spirit Adrift were sharing three members. And Eric from Gatecreeper, he was really just kind of filling in for us live on one tour. But we reached a point where both of the bands were getting so popular that we just couldn't share members anymore, especially three members, because Gatecreeper was having to turn down really cool tours. Spirit Adrift was having to turn down really cool tours. So we split the bands. And then COVID happened. So then it was a process of trying to figure all that out. But, I was doing Spirit Adrift even before I was in Gatecreeper. A lot of people don't realize that. And it's always just been, this is my project, this is my baby. Started as a solo project, and, as much as I want it to be like a full band, I think it's always just kind of been a solo project. I write all the songs. I demo all the songs. And then I moved to Texas in 2020 and needed a new lineup. Sonny was playing bass at that time, and Sonny was able to stay in the band. I met the new drummer, Mike Fury, down here. Just a fucking incredible drummer, man. Great guy. We were actually playing in a thrash metal band together. And he was so fucking good, and same taste in music, grew up listening to old school metal and hard rock and going to shows with his dad. His dad was taking him to concerts when he was 4 years old, Pink Floyd and Van Halen and Iron Maiden and shit like that. And then I had known Tom Draper for a while as well. Spirit Adrift and Carcass had played some shows together, and Tom was playing in Carcass. He had some green card issues with his citizenship because he's a British citizen, but he lives in the United States. So he was unable to continue in Carcass, but he was a big fan of Spirit Adrift, and I was a big fan of him. So we linked up, and that's the live band now. And as far as the new record, I played all the guitar, rhythm guitar, and the bass, which I've always done on every Spirit Adrift recording. Michael played drums, and Tom and I both played lead guitar. And it really, Tom pushed me a lot. He's a really, really good lead guitar player. So that made me have to step up my game as well.
Okay, well, nice to hear. Well, you told me in the interview that we had in 2020 that the Spirit Adrift is your own project since the beginning to now. You start to record heavy metal as you like it, like a lot of bands, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden. You told me that. I remember that.
Yeah,
I remember. So, but in 2020, you decide to leave Gatecreeper at that time and completely focus on Spirit Adrift. So why do you decide to leave Gatecreeper, and what's your opinion about the Gatekeeper now? Because Gatekeepers are growing very fast as Spirit Adrift too.
Yeah, like I said, man, my heart is in this. It always has been. I wrote a few things with Gatecreeper, but it really wasn't my band. That's as far as I'm concerned, that's Eric's band. I feel like he writes most of it at this point. All of my favorite stuff is Eric, and that's their baby. Spirit Adrift is my baby. And I wish nothing but the best for them. They're crushing it. We're crushing it. I'm getting to do everything I want to do with this band. We just played with Metallica and Iron Maiden. Doesn't get much better than that. So yeah, we like I mentioned earlier, it was reaching what we call a point of diminishing returns, right? So Gatecreeper was having to turn down great tours and great opportunities, and so was Spirit Adrift. So we really had no choice but to split the bands. And yeah, I mean, I put my heart and soul in Spirit Adrift and always have. And I'll be doing this for as long as I'm alive. This is where my heart is.
Okay. Well, you told me that the old albums from Spirit Adrift are very different in their own way. So if we relate to this aspect, so for you, what are the biggest difference that exists, Ghost of the Wallows compared to the Enlight in Eternity? And can we say that these Ghosts of the Gallows are completely has the influence of the pandemic or not?
Man, I don't think it's really related to the pandemic all of that much. I don't want to sound like an asshole, but I didn't get caught up in all the fear and the panic and bullshit with the pandemic. I know it was a serious thing and people died, but speaking personally, I lost more people to mental health issues, drugs, suicide, that sort of stuff. I think the thing with Spirit Adrift is I'm writing whatever I'm feeling at the time. So the early material is really doomy and epic and shit, and that's what I was feeling at the time. And then Divided, it started getting a little more I don't know, epic in a different way, because that's what I was feeling at the time. Enlightened in Eternity, when I was writing that album, my life was really good. So the lyrics are are positive and uplifting and hopeful, because that's the truth of what I was experiencing. What I was experiencing with Ghost at the Gallows was a lot of death, a lot of people dying. I lost my life. You know, I didn't die, but I lost my life. I was not able to tour and do what I love. So in a way, yeah, I was watching people that I love die, but I also felt like I lost my life for a couple of years. So that's what inspired the album. Not so much the pandemic, but just death, a lot of death.
Nice, nice. Well, so related to this aspect about talking about the new generation prefers to hear the music with singles and relate a lot of this kind of the playlists, etc., etc. So for you, which song capture whole essence for this Ghost at the Hallow, Ghost of the Gallows?
That's a good question. And that's difficult for me to answer because I'm an album guy. I want every fucking song that I write to be great as it can be. But I'm an album guy, man. I always have been since I was young. But there's a reason that we put Give Her to the River track number 1. It's a long song. I think maybe the label wanted us to start the album with a shorter song, but when we were listening back to the 8 tracks, we were like, fuck, that song, that's the one, man. So yeah, I think the opening song, it sums up everything that's cool to me about the new album. So yeah, Give Her to the River. If I had to pick one song, that would be it.
The hit from the album.
What about you, man?
Well, I prefer all album. I really like this album because I'm a 40 years old, and when I hear a new band like heavy metal with doom metal, I always think like the first wave of the heavy metal, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest. That's normal. That's the way I'm raised up with the old stuff. That's normal. And curiously, the next question is: in a world where many things are recycled, how do you see the path of spirit Adrift will be? Because a lot of people are recycling the sounds from the 70s and 80s. And do you think that the spirit Adrift are recycling the sounds from the old days and perhaps have a new sound into the old sound?
Yeah, I've never been interested in sounding retro or sounding lo-fi. Yeah. And I think that's something that differentiates us. And every interview I've done, people bring that up. I'm writing the music that I love. I happen to love old school metal, new wave of British heavy metal, Southern rock, the blues, old country, psychedelic rock, all that shit. I think that all comes through. But I have zero interest in sounding old, right? Because Iron Maiden in the 80s, they wanted to sound as good as they could sound. Yeah. They were using the newest technology. Iron Maiden didn't want to sound like they were from the 50s, right? So I don't want to sound like I'm from the 80s. I want to sound as good as possible. That's it. And we in the band say classic sound with modern quality, right? And that's it, man. I can't predict the future of the band or whatever, but all I'm going to do is keep writing real music that's from my heart. That's it.
Okay. And related to this aspect of the years, for people like me over 40 and many 40 years or 50 years and many fans, they believe that Spirit Adrift doesn't bring anything new to the musical world and fulfills the patterns of the style of more than 40 years ago, as I remember, as I told you. So what do you think Spirit Adrift's music is special for you? And what do you think that the only people under 40 years old are the ones who believe that the music of the new days are especially in the heavy metal are original?
Well, there's never been me before. That's it. I'm the first me. I'm the only me. So I think no matter what, even if I have influences, Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden, Metallica, Slayer, Waylon Jennings, whatever. Those guys had influences too, right? But they have their own personality. Tony Iommi has his influences, they're very clear. Metallica had their influences, and Metallica stole riffs more than any band that's ever existed, even more than Led Zeppelin. Go on YouTube and watch Metallica stolen riffs, and you'll be shocked, right? And I think that Metallica sounds like Metallica, even if they're playing a David Bowie riff. It sounds like Metallica, and Spirit Adrift sounds like Spirit Adrift. And I'm me, man. I'm not James Hetfield. I'm not Iommi. I'm not Tom Petty. I am me, and I'm a collection of all my influences, and it's never been done exactly the way that I'm doing it.
That's right, because that's right, because that's why I love the last album from the Spirit Adrift. You sound like Spirit Adrift, as you said, like mix heavy metal, doomy parts, etc. It's normal, it's your influence. But relating to these aspects, I spoke last year with Jarvis from Night Demon, and he told me that he's very bored about the people or the new bands that are trying to copy and paste, and even not just the music, always not just the music, the weather, the weird, the vestiments of the old people. So what's your opinion about now about the heavy doom people that playing like you the same style but are trying to recreate the sound of the 70s in the same way, the shoes, the shirts, etc.,
Yeah.
the same like the 80s? What's your opinion about this?
Some of those bands are really good, man. I like some of those retro metal bands a lot. But at the same time, dude, I've never fit in. I was fucking weird growing up. I didn't have a normal family life. I was raised by my grandparents, so I was never really conscious of what was cool or trendy or popular or whatever. And for a long time, that was difficult for me. It was hard for me to make friends. I didn't fit in because I didn't know what was cool. But eventually, I became grateful. I don't give a fuck what's cool or trendy or what this person's trying to do. Or there's a lot of guys right now also that look the same with like the mustache and the fucking hair with like the camo hat and shit like that. A lot of people trying to look like Chase from Gate Creeper or Riley from Power Trip. And I don't fucking get that, dude. I'm not interested in what other people are doing. I want to be myself, and that's it. And right now, certain shit's popular. New metal is making a comeback. That shit sucks. I don't give a fuck about any of that. 10 years from now, some other dumb shit will be trying to make a trendy comeback. I'll still be just writing shit that I want to hear and that I want to write. That's it. I'm me, man. I don't give a fuck what these other people are doing.
Well, okay, nice, nice. I recently spoke with Jacopo from Tigers of Pantan, and he told me
Cool.
that the 70s promotions from the new wave of British heavy metal, they had more freedom to create music, and compared to the bands today, as I told you, a lot of bands are recreate the same version of the same version of Angel Witch with a different name. So what do you think like him that the bands from the 70s has more freedom to create music compared to the bands to now that have a leading way or stick to the one concept?
Man, it depends on how you look at it. One thing that I think there where we have an advantage is we have all of those guys' records that we can study. So we can listen to what worked and what didn't work, and we can see what to avoid, you know?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. Any real artist doesn't give a fuck about rules or
Labels.
yeah, labels or restrictions
Yeah.
or anything like that. So, you know, all the best bands in the 80s were doing whatever the fuck they wanted. Like there was probably a lot of people worried about Iron Maiden putting keyboards on Somewhere in Time, but that's my favorite Iron Maiden record. And I know a lot of people personally who are scared to take creative risks. They're like, "Ooh, we better not get outside of this box, or the people on Instagram might not like us, or Decibel Magazine might not like us, or Deaf Forever might not like," I never gave a fuck about that, man. I'm making music that I love, and that's the only way to be as an artist, because eventually people will be able to tell if you're not being honest and not being sincere to your own heart. If you're trying to make music for this person to like it, or this person to like it, or be cool. I always think about Kerry King from Slayer back in the late 90s was talking shit about nu metal and how much he hated nu metal and how he wanted to quit because of nu metal. But then they made Diabolus and Musica, which is like that close to a nu metal album.
So close.
Fucking embarrassing, dude. Embarrassing. So I don't give a shit, man. I make the music that I want to make, and that's it.
That is true. Well, with 8 years of existence with Spirit Adrift, well, you told me that you don't like to put the. Well, I remember when I spoke in 2020 that when I spoke about the decline of heavy metal or doom metal, according to reviewers, you didn't agree about this concept. You just play rock and roll and heavy metal, no more. I don't give a fuck if they play doom metal, etc. So, with 8 years of existence, what's your opinion about now that a lot of people are relating the music, the Spirit Drift, with doom area?
That's okay. That I love doom metal, man. And I could see like a lot of our subject matter is very fitting with doom metal. The lyrical subjects are like death and feeling bad, stuff like that. So yeah, I get it. That's fine. It's not up to me to tell other people what to think about the music that I'm making, man. I know how I feel about it, and what other people feel about it. That's their opinion and that's their feelings, and they're totally entitled to that. Eventually, with all the best bands, Metallica is Metallica. Opeth is Opeth. Are they a death metal band? Are they a prog rock band? Whatever, man. They're Opeth, So I think eventually it's just Spirit Adrift.
That's right. Other aspect that I did note, when you told me about the concept of the music, because this music has a lot of influence of your environment, people dying around you, and I think this concept is very related with the cover art, because Ghosts of the Gallows are very dark way. The cover art is very dark with the gallows in there. So who came with the idea to create the cover art? It was you, or perhaps it was in this case the artist?
It was a collaboration, a true collaboration, because I sent Jeremy Hush, he did the artwork. I sent to him lyrics and concepts and themes, and I sort of just told him, we had a few conversations. I told him, man, I moved back to the South, and I gave him like a list of images that were present in my life when I was working on the album. So like a lot of nature, deer and coyotes and the owl and the river and all of that. That was all in my life when I was working on this album. I live out in the middle of the woods here in Texas, and I know when I finished demoing the album, I went outside on my land, and there was an owl in the tree, and we just stared at each other for a really long time, me and the owl. I didn't tell that to the album artist. I just had a list of stuff, but he came back with that cover with the owl and the tombstone, and I thought that was creepy, because I didn't tell him the story with the owl, but he still came with that concept for the album art. So I said, yeah, let's do it. And then, he when the physical vinyl and CD comes out, you'll see there's a booklet. Every single song on the album has its own artwork, and it's all different relating to each song. It's really cool.
And what did you decide to use older?
That was, man, that was his decision. I had a different idea in mind for the album cover. But Jeremy, who did the artwork, yeah, he sent me that concept with the tombstone and the owl.
Yeah.
And like I said, you know, I had just had this strange encounter with an owl on my land where we just stared at each other for a long time, you know.
Oh, nice.
So I just felt like it was meant to be.
Okay, okay. So we are very close to this interview, Nate. And for this aspect, what are the future plans that you have for Spirit? Perhaps you will embark on a tour in Europe, in US, Australia, Asia. I think I will. Spirit will receive good with in Asia because they love the heavy metal, really, really love. And perhaps
Yeah,
you will embark in a tour in Latin America for the first time with a full tour. Who knows?
I hope so. I hope so. Everyone I know that has toured South America and Latin America says you need to do it because you guys are diehards and there's no fucking posers. We got a lot of posers up here in North America. Not as many posers in South America. And yeah, I think Asia is ready too, maybe Australia, but we'll see, man. It's as everyone is discussing at the moment, the touring industry is really fucked up.
Yeah.
It's really fucked up. And a lot of that stuff is out of my control. So for me personally, I'm just going to keep writing music. I have a lot of ideas. I have a lot of riffs. So I'm, yeah, working on that. We're working on a live album at the moment as well. We're mixing a live album. And yeah, we're gonna tour as much as we can. I'd like to tour the whole world if I could. So we'll see. There's people that we pay to fucking make that happen. So we'll see what they can do, you know?
Okay. Okay. Well, as I told you in the first interview that we got in 2022, and you told me that now that you everything do by yourself since the beginning, well, to now, until to now. And with this aspect, what's your opinion about now the artificial intelligence are more present into the arts? Because you did this project by yourself, playing all instruments by yourself. But now with artificial intelligence, you can do everything by yourself, playing guitars, bass, player, cover art, etc. You can do everything by yourself. But now you decide to do this music with with three members too. That's a curious. So, what's your opinion about the artificial intelligence more present into the arts and in the future when perhaps you will stay? You told me you stay alone with Spirit Adrift even when the old members retire. Did you decide to use perhaps will you decide to use the artificial to create more music by yourself?
No, that's not for me, man. I'm not worried about artificial intelligence because you know I asked it a couple of questions and it was stupid. The answer was fucking stupid. I wasn't worried about it. No, man, I'm old school, dude. I'm old school. I like having a human connection with other humans. I like being connected to nature. I like being connected to animals. I use technology as a tool, only the minimum that's necessary to make my life easier. But no, I like artwork that's made by humans. I like music that's made by humans. I don't give a fuck about artificial intelligence. When it's time to go to war with the machines like Terminator, I'll be right there fucking smashing the computer with a hammer and shit, man.
Oh, nice. Okay, okay. Well, Nate, the sad time arrived at this interview. I hope you enjoyed this one like me. As at the
Yeah,
first
man.
time, you're a terrific guy. Really love your band. This last album, really like it. We will do the review soon. So perhaps do you want to add something to your Latin American fans and Metallica followers?
Man, just gracias, obrigado, whatever language you're speaking down there. We appreciate the support from all of you. And I hope that we can tour for Latin America very, very soon because we hear that you guys are fucking crazy for real heavy metal. You know, thank you for the support, Javier. Appreciate you, man.